Welcome to This Week in Habs Land. I'm Jordan, he's Brian, and we are here one last time this season, we think, to talk about our beloved Montreal Canadiens. You can find us on social media at Habsland Pod, primarily on Blue Sky these days. So we are recording following the early rush of a free agency, and Brian and I thought we waited enough time. The rule we had set out was waiting till Marner signed. Of course, the Marner stuff, which we'll get into towards the very back end. And everything kind of happened very quickly with the exception of one or two guys still out there. We thought it was time to discuss some moves by the Montreal Canadiens and then other moves here and around there. And of course, recap day 2 of the NHL draft. The last episode we did really focus on the Noah Dobson trade. A quick programming reminder or just message to the folks listening. First of all, thank you all for listening this season. I think Brian and I were doing the math here. 46th episode we have put out, this one, since training camp in late September. It means a lot to us that people actually listen to us and think we have somewhat intelligible takes. Not all the time, but if we can surprise you 12% of the time and only disappoint you half, and whatever the rest is, you're just laughing at us because of our ineptitude. That's great. We love it. We appreciate it. And essentially, unless there is something really big and schedule permitting, this will probably be our last episode until training camp. Maybe a big Hudson contract extension, maybe a big Matheson trade. That'll probably could loop us back in again, schedule permitting. But for all intents and purposes, last one of the year, Brian. But let's go out with a bang. And let's talk about the big trade that actually broke right before free agency at noon. It was the Canadiens and the St. Louis Blues, not a Kyrou trade, but Zachary Bolduc traded for Bolduc-Mailloux, a 1-for-1 swap. Brian, what were your first thoughts on the trade?
I was thrilled with this trade immediately. Still am. I think that this is a great move for both teams, where each team takes a surplus item at a particular position, sends them off for something that they desperately need. And the Blues will have to wait a little bit longer, I think, for Mailloux to come to fruition. We don't have to wait that long with Bolduc. So my initial reaction was we're getting a little bit of a more ready player who was drafted in the same year. Like, they were both drafted in the first round in 2021. They're both in the third and final year of their ELCs, $800-something thousand. Bolduc is slightly cheaper. And they're both young and talented, but they're superfluous now, Too many forwards for the Blues, too many right-handed defensemen for the Montreal Canadiens. What? That sounds weird. Too many right-handed defensemen for the Montreal Canadiens after, for years, we've been talking about the desperate need. But Dobson does that, and Reinbacher does that. So defensemen take longer to mature than forwards do. So I think that the Blues are looking for the long development path with Mailloux. But that being said, he's got a spot to protect. They've told him that right after the trade happened. They told him in St. Louis, you have a spot to protect come training camp. And as a sixth defenseman who is used in basically offensive situations, he could help them a lot. But Bolduc, I think, is going to help right away in a much more important role. Top 6, potentially, that's my hope.
So it's interesting that's your position on it. I think that's certainly the Blues' position on it. Like, hey, position of strength for us. We hate to see him go, but a right-handed defenseman who's 21, 22 years old, don't come by every day. He has done, we talked about it last few episodes. He has decent draft pedigree still. He's done well in the AHL. Bolduc-Mailloux has, and it's a worthwhile trade. I think the Canadiens won this one, and laughed at it. Like, I made my feelings clear last episode on Mailloux, and it's not totally an objective opinion on his hockey ability, but even in that objective arena, I thought there was still some real shortcomings. And I hope, I don't even know if I hope he figures it out. It's not my problem anymore, is quite frankly how I'm looking at it. And it's also interesting we think about it like the Canadiens have a positional strength now on the right-hand side. I still don't think that to be necessarily true. There's 3 guys. That's it. There's 3 guys in the organization. It's Carrier, it's Reinbacher, and of course it's Noah Dobson. It's not like they have 6 or 7 the way they've had that many lefties in the past. I think the Canadiens just identified a player that this was the right time to move off of him, and they found the right dancing partner. And they got a hell of a player in Bolduc.
They really did.
And I do want to get into Bolduc and how there's middle 6 is a lock, and we can talk about how he's essentially a Heineman replacement, and how we were already talking about Emil Heineman moving up from a 4th liner to at least a 3rd liner next season.
Yeah.
But I think certainly the Blues thought about it this is our strength winger, and the Canadiens have a right-handed defenseman, and let's do that. Let's make that trade. Whereas I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like the Canadiens just kind of identified a guy who, if they held on to him any longer, his value would kind of crater, and they kind of hit the eject button at this moment. And I think it was perfectly played on that side.
Yeah. For the record, I agree with you completely. The Habs won this trade. Like, Bolduc nearly scored 20 goals last season. He heated up as the season went on, started a little slow. We've heard that song and dance before for a bunch of Montreal Canadiens forwards, so he will fit right in. But definitely heated up as the season went on. He developed tons of new traits too that had been missing from his game, right? Like the physicality, he upped a bunch, realizing that if he wants a spot, he has to rely on that physicality as well. Puck retrievals, like he became almost a different player, and it really showed in his stat line. So that's fantastic. Mailloux couldn't hang in the NHL because he was a liability defensively. Like that's the difference here. I think he'll still be a useful piece for the Blues as a 6D offensive guy you throw into specific situations and not other situations. But like I said before, Bolduc, you don't have to worry about that. As a third line checking guy who will also provide some offense, he'd be great. If you want to give him a bigger slice of the pie and put him in the top 6 on the second line specifically and have him try to jive with Demidov and most likely Doc, maybe Newhook, but most likely Doc, that's interesting too. And he might jump at that opportunity and actually do really well in it. I really think Bolduc will want to become a complete hockey player the way that he's developed this past year. He's going to want to become a complete hockey player so he can remain in the top 6 of the Montreal Canadiens. And from a coaching perspective, I can't think of anybody better than Martin St. Louis to expand his repertoire in terms of his abilities. Like, look at Anderson's 180 last season when he was asked to take on defensive responsibilities, and he made them look natural by season's end. Look at Caulfield, his development as a playmaker. Like, Marty's great at taking an already good at some things player and fix the other elements of his game, or not fix them, but like improve them. So I just think it's a tremendous fit. I have been over the moon since the beginning with this one. I still am. I've said top 6 a lot. You said middle 6. I think middle 6 is probably more accurate, but do you see a path to a top 6 spot as early as like right after training camp if he shows well enough?
Training camp is going to be hard because of just there's 4 spots that are completely reserved, and then we can talk about if he's going to play center. I don't think it's likely. Like, for the record, he has not played center at all in the NHL. However, there were reports that he played about 30 games or so in the AHL at center in the 2024 season. So not this past one, the one before that. So there's some potential there. However likely, I don't know. So top 6 will be hard, and he doesn't have to figure it out. You said it right here. Like, Canadiens won this trade in part because they just traded for a 22-year-old guy, winger, who scored at a 20-goal pace, essentially. And if you look at his splits, especially after Jim Montgomery took over, like the splits are closer to a 30-goal pace, quite frankly. So, and it's been interesting because of the 2 biggest acquisitions. So Dobson is in his own tier, but then Bolduc as well. That second power play unit, all of a sudden, if you look at Bolduc and what he's done and the goals he's scored this past season, the 19, man, the bumper on the power play he's figured out. There's a chance that's PP1. I know there's a lot of talented guys that we want to fit all on power play 1.
There's too many of them, though. So have 2 strong units and Bolduc on the... Wow, I never thought of that, but that could be really fun.
So
he is a good bumper.
And you can watch him, like Grant McCagg posted a terrific video of, I don't know if it was all his goals, but a good chunk of his goals from the past season. And he has figured out the thing on the bumper where he has to shift a little bit. If the lane isn't there, you got to have quick feet. It's almost like you're just shimmying over a little bit, and you help the guy on one of the half walls. It's usually on the left half wall for him for the one-timer to just find that little opening. And he scored a ton of goals from the bumper. A lot of goals in front of the net, a lot of goals on rebounds, he is going to the right places. Bumper on the power play right in front of the net. There's a couple of nice shots in there for sure. Might have the best shot on the Blues, according to what I've read. I'm no expert on all the guys on the Blues, but some talented guys there. But it looks like he has one of the best shots from that team, bringing that over. And it's happy that he's replacing Heineman because Heineman had a very underrated shot. So I think it's really interesting because now you can, if you're bringing Dobson and Bolduc into power play 2, most likely, and you're demoting someone from power play 1, likely Slavkovsky, Demidov, or Laine. We haven't figured out who, but one of those 3 guys is also going down to power play 2. Slowly, power play 2 is looking really darn good. They need to figure it out. They need one guy to kind of, and maybe it's Dobson that kind of just helps orchestrate things a bit better. But just one thing I kind of saw from like diving into Bolduc a bit is that bumper spot on the power play, like the Canadiens have not been able to figure that and the net front piece out for a while. And they've tried Slav in a couple different places and nothing totally works for him. I think he can do something on the net front, or the Canadiens just need a different alignment and just kind of have two net front guys and just rotate it around. But that was a really interesting piece that I was like, oh, okay, like there's definitely a bumper power play guy here. Not a penalty killer. Nothing we've seen so far in the NHL, but it doesn't mean he can't be doing it.
Right.
And yeah, like you mentioned, by all accounts, has improved defensively. So these guys, like, look, they're not the unicorns that the centers are, but still getting anyone this young who has shown that's a decent track record now of putting up a lot of goals. He had 50 goal seasons in the queue right after he was drafted.
Yep.
So I view this as an absolute slam dunk. And maybe this is because we have a closer perception of who Bolduc-Mailloux is. And we actually, we know a bit more of the warts, and maybe we just don't know that about Bolduc yet, but I view this as a no doubt about it slam dunk. What a great pickup, and what a quick way to recover, if that's the word we want to use, on the Emil Heineman hole.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of filling those holes or replacing guys that you currently have, Heineman to Bolduc is an upgrade. No offense to Heineman. He just got signed 2 years, 1.1 million. Good for you, buddy. Keeping in it. You know, all the best, obviously. But that's an upgrade for the Montreal Canadiens. And Mailloux to Dobson is an unbelievably giant upgrade. So when you take a top-down view of the two moves that were made, those two trades, you go from Heineman to Bolduc is an improvement. You go from Mailloux to Dobson, that's a monster improvement. All it cost was 16 and 17. Magic beans.
Yeah.
And by all accounts, in terms of the scouts, best case scenario, those players drafted roughly there, not just the two that were drafted at 16, 17, but any in that range the Habs might have picked from, 3 to 5 years at best, until they're like not only NHL ready, but like effective in the NHL. So that's a waiting game, and I really don't see it as that big a cost. Dobson plus Bolduc for Heineman and Mailloux and those two picks is just incredible. And then throw in getting a 7th for Primo, and creme de la creme.
We'll have a real deep dive on the Canadian Primo trade
that merits its own episode. A trade tree has begun, and who knows what the result will be, Jordan.
Well, it's really the circle of life. A 7th round pick returns you a 7th round pick. That's it. The circle of life. So, if I may, just trying to draw up here the 2nd through 4th line. I'm doing this very much on the fly right now. So I think we're saying Doc, Newhook, Evans down the middle. Lines. Well, we don't have to say these are lines 2, 3, and 4, but for all intents and purposes, let's say that. What are your thoughts on Bolduc and Demidov as the guys for Newhook?
For Newhook,
yeah,
Bolduc is the only physical player on that line.
That's why. You need someone
That's
going
why
to the net.
Put him there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Doc isn't necessarily physical, but he's bigger than Newhook, and he uses his frame much more. So I would see Doc, Demidov, Bolduc, but it depends. I mean, some people have said that Doc's conditioning is like the best that he's been in his life.
We'll see it in October, and then I will believe it. So it's Patrick Laine, the one that we need to figure out?
No.
And that you need to split up Laine from Demidov, right? Does that have to happen?
Yeah, you said figure out, and I said no immediately because it's not something to figure out. It's obvious. Laine goes to the 3rd or 4th line, and he's a power play specialist. That's all he should be. And maybe that's unfair because even like I said a couple weeks ago, we haven't seen a fully healthy Laine yet. So maybe give him a chance when he's fully healthy. But even then, he's not a play developer. He's almost uniquely a play finisher. And unless he's playing with the absolute best players on your team, he's not going to get to do that. So I do get the idea of putting him with Demidov.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Demidov needs somebody more versatile than that. He needs a second winger who can make up for his lack of knowledge about the NHL and positioning. And it's crazy to say that about a kid like Bolduc, but Bolduc is more suited to that than Laine is, this veteran who's like this elite, scorer. But I think Bolduc is better suited for that.
Yeah, it's also like we probably don't want to revert Josh Anderson to top 6 Anderson, like bottom 6 Anderson. We figured it out last year.
You uncovered something great, leave it.
Yeah, like I like Galley, Anderson, Evans as the 4th line, or we can call it the 3rd line. Like who cares? At the end of the day, St. Louis is going to roll them evenly, and depending on situation, one line's going to get more time than the other. I view them, the 3rd and 4th line are going to be very interchangeable this season. So if you keep Galley and Anderson together with Evans, that likely means I like the idea of Demidov with Bolduc and Newhook, and that would mean Patrick Laine with Kirby Doc and Oliver Kapanen as the other guy. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Not terrible. Not terrible. Maybe you just make Kapanen the center.
You could.
They screw it.
You could. I don't know. I really do think they're going to give Doc a second chance, but I don't hate that setup. That's all right.
Yeah. Anyways, just, we can never start pitching lines too early, right?
No, never. And on the topic of the top 9, let's say, or, trying to figure out what the forward group is, that's, I guess, the bottom 9. But I want to look at the top 9 of the Montreal Canadiens as it's grown over the past few seasons. Let's take a real kind of forest from the trees view here. After the run that the Montreal Canadiens have, lose a bunch of guys are banged up, whatever it is, the worst season imaginable, 21-22. This was the top 9 in order of ice time. Suzuki, Toffoli, Dvorak, Rem Pitlick is 4th. Incredible. Josh Anderson, Jonathan Drouin, Hoffman, Caulfield, Evans. Now, next season, presumably what it's going to be, Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Demidov, Doc, Bolduc, Newhook, Evans, Laine. In terms of ice time. That's sort of what I foresee happening. Laine might be a stretch. It might end up being Kapanen. But what a monstrous growth in terms of skill. And even the guys that were there and are there now are completely different hockey players. 2021-22, Caulfield, Suzuki, and Evans, and Anderson even. Not the same guys they are now. They're so much better and so much more effective, and they found their niche on the team.
Yeah, and that's also something I like to we got to keep in mind here. Like, certainly coaching's part of that. That's the Anderson stuff you tie to coaching, and also himself.
Yep.
But also, like, sometimes the acquisition for the Canadiens is just the guys getting a year older. Like, sometimes you don't have to you just got to wait a bit. Like, I know everyone right now wants to be the team that takes down the Panthers. Habs aren't that team next year, I don't think. It's not impossible. But I don't think that, but like, I'm not saying that the players aren't right. Like, you have to change the roster that much. Just got to wait it out a bit.
Right.
Like, they're going to still get better. A lot of these guys are still going to get a lot better. And some of them are still coming through. Like Reinbacher, we're not quite sure yet. Demidov should be a rookie this year, but rookie Demidov's going to be way different than year 6 Demidov. So, like, that's part of it too, right? Like, we're looking at 22 and saying, like, Suzuki from 22 to Suzuki from 25. Love Nick 4 years ago, but he's so much better now. And now you just project that to, freaking Lane Hudson. Who knows what he'll be able to do in 4 years. So, like, it's still very, very exciting. If we could put a bow on the Logan-Mailloux era.
Sure.
Look, man, like, it's not outside of the realm of possibility to say this was one of the main drivers beyond a lot of stupidity that Marc Bergevin pulled throughout his entire tenure. This might have been the straw that broke the camel's back with Jeff Molson. That Molson maybe wasn't really aware of the backlash that was going to happen when they drafted Logan-Mailloux. And look, Bergevin was doing a bunch of things. The real thing that got him fired was saying they had to do yet another rebuild after he basically started one, or a half started one, but then also pushed all his chips in. The thing with the Mailloux pick when they came in, the new regime, Jeff Gordon, Ken Hughes, there was real consideration about whether or not they'd even sign him, and whether they would just say, we'll take the 62nd pick, which is what you get if you don't sign your first round pick, who was 31st. You get the equivalent pick 1 round later. So it actually would have been 63rd. That's what the Canadiens would have gotten if they had just not signed Logan-Mailloux. So part of me, I think a lot of people are relieved that he's not on the team anymore. And it's also like, there's like a cynical part of my brain that's like, well, it was an asset play the whole time. Or with them saying, can we get better than the 63rd pick? And I can say without a doubt, Zach Bolduc is way better than the average quality of a 63rd pick.
Well, he went 17th and he's panning out better than that even. So absolutely.
He's panning out. Yes, he's absolutely panning out in that range, if not slightly better at this point. It still makes me feel a bit icky. Like, not the Bolduc part. I will enjoy every second of this guy, by the way, Trois-Rivières. So good près de chez nous, not exactly 514-450, but close enough that he's definitely a half cent. We've seen the pictures with him as a kid with the barber pole shirt, so he was in it with us.
Oh yeah.
So you're one of us. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said my piece about Mailloux last episode. I'm happy I got it out there. It still feels weird from an asset play. Like, that's what I was thinking. I was like, wow, if they just didn't sign him, they would have gotten a second. This is better. Like, was that the idea the whole time to just, I don't know. I'm happy it's over, but it's still just, it's an icky part of the modern franchise that we were never totally able to shed the feeling of it.
I think no matter what when you look at hockey players as assets or trade chips, or you can't help but feel a bit icky when you discuss the management of one of these players, because for all intents and purposes, he wasn't a Montreal Canadien playing 8 games in his career. Like, he was for 8 games. Okay, 480 minutes. But he probably played, 8 minutes in each of those games, so much less. Anyway, he was a Montreal Canadien on the ice for about an hour. So I do understand where you're coming from. I don't see it as that cynically, that it was just we got to hold on to him and move him for more later. I don't doubt that was a little part of it, but I think that they had realistic hope that Mailloux could be, for lack of a better word, rehabilitated in terms of his what he did and the ways that he, I guess, made up for that. And I think that they were hoping that they could get the best possible hockey player out of him after he had worked on himself personally. And when that didn't work, they saw an opportunity.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It'll always be weird.
Yeah.
And I'm happy it's over.
Yeah, I am too. It is a relief. You said it was a relief, and I don't think I fully processed that until this moment. But you're right. I was so pumped about getting Bolduc. I hadn't really thought like, oh, good, we're done with that storyline now. But it is a relief to not have to almost walk on eggshells when you're talking about the guy.
That's exactly it. Let's get into the rest of the stuff. Let's get back to it. Apologies for the diversion. That is the last time we'll ever talk about Logan Mailloux, at least in a breath longer than 15 seconds. He might happen in passing here or there, but it's off the books. It's gone. It's in the past. Welcome, Zachary Bolduc. Can't wait to root for you, bud. So the rest that happened for the Montreal Canadiens, moderately busy. Nothing. I think we've done the big stuff. It's Dobson and Bolduc are the two headlines of the offseason. Dobson, of course, is like number one with a bullet. And Bolduc is at like, holy smokes, you got this 22-year-old kid who's going to score 20 plus goals, ELC, all that stuff. The rest. So the guys that left, let's start with them.
Sure.
I think kind of expected. Dvorak and Armia both sign elsewhere. Christian Dvorak, 1 year, $5.4 million. If I recall correctly, Brian, I had set the over-under at 6. So I feel pretty good about being close to bang on with that. I thought it would be over 2 years.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
3 years each. It just shows how just absolutely strapped the center market is.
So let's do that. We'll get
That's
to Armia
all
in a
it
second.
is.
After Mikael Granlund, is Christian Dvorak the best center that switched teams? I don't even know who third would be at this point. That explains that. That's why it's also 1 year, and he got to do 5.4, and he's going to get to have. I mean, we all just saw contract year Dvorak. I mean, he's going to be on a bad team in Philly, so who knows? And they're also like, Philly has no centers.
No, they don't. I mean, they're filling their cap to get to the floor, and they're filling their lineup with guys who are decent, okay veterans for the young guys, and they're going to flip them at the deadline, and they're going to lose less games without him than they did with him. But that's the one last little bit of shade I'm going to throw at Dvorak. End of an era. I need a new scapegoat, Jordan. Oh,
that's true.
I need a new scapegoat. Who shall I choose?
Well, I mean, you're too soft. You're not going to make it Matheson. Can't do that to the West Island kid.
No, hell no. Would not even consider it.
I mean, I know who it is. You know who it is. It's the guy we just talked about that you want to put on the fourth line. It's Patrick Laine.
Sure. I mean, you could already argue that he has been a scapegoat.
He's getting there. It's been trending that way. But we don't have to get into that right now. We're focusing on Devo. So the Canadiens have lost the center ultimately.
Yeah.
Are we okay with essentially it's going to be Suzuki? I guess it's Suzuki, Doc, Newhook, Evans.
Thrilled.
With Kapanen and Beck kind of lurking. Certainly Kapanen, I think, will be on the roster at this point, whether or not he is a center TBD. Beck, it might mean like we can chill a bit more on Owen Beck. I don't think him as a 13th forward makes any sense.
No, give him more time.
That might be the next guy we're going to talk about, which is Sammy Blad. Like he might be in the ABB spot where he starts the 13th forward. But so we're okay with that? Like
I'm fine with
losing Christian Dvorak. Like it's.
Whatever. I prefer it. Like I would have loved to see them pick somebody up, but there was nobody to be picked up. How greedy can we be to think they would have gotten Dobson and then also flipped Mailloux for Bolduc and then also we got a second line center. No, it's just let's not be greedy.
Yeah, within the realm of possibility, this is about not to jump ahead half a segment, but about as damn good as an offseason you can get, quite frankly.
Oh yeah.
And just with Dobson. Anyways, we'll sum it up in a minute. So Devo's gone. Yoel Armia, 2 years, $2.5 million per year with LA. Whatever for LA in terms of the Habs. That's another one where it's penalty kill spots opened up now. Well, 2 actually with Dvorak also gone.
Yep.
How are we feeling with the vacuum being filled here with some of the young kids? Again, like it's likely, I would say at this point, it's Kapanen taking that spot.
Right. I'm fine with it. I mean, I feel stronger about Armia than I ever did about Dvorak. Like, I mean, Armia's been a Hab for like 7 seasons.
Right.
Right. So like there's more of an attachment to him, and he wasn't a panic move that Bergevin made, at least not to my recollection. He wasn't a panic move that Bergevin was making because he pissed off Phil Danault and had to replace him with Dvorak. You know what I mean? Like that's another storyline I'm happy to be done with. Whereas Armia's storyline is a guy who's bumped around from different positions thinking, oh, he's a power forward scorer, sniper style. And then, oh no, he's more bottom of the lineup. And oh, he could do some penalty killing, but he's good along the wall. So like, I think Armia will be missed. That hole will be harder to fill, ironically, than Dvorak's, I think.
I think that's well put. Like, I think these last 2 seasons, we got to actually see the player Yoel Armia is meant to be. Like you said, it kind of along the lines of Anderson, but not to the level of scrutiny that Anderson got.
No.
It was like, what the hell is this guy supposed to be? Why is he not a top 6? And we realize he's not a top 6 guy.
Yeah.
He's a really effective penalty killer, bottom 6. And when his hand is working, which it wasn't the last half of the season, I really messed him up and I was really too bad. He's a 15 to 20 goal scorer with limited opportunities, and he's a shorthand sniper. Like,
yep.
He will certainly be missed. I think that is definitely a spot that can be eaten up by one of the young kids. Doesn't mean we won't miss him. I think he was 4th among active Montreal Canadiens in points. Like it's Galley, Suzuki, Caulfield. I believe Armia is 4th, right above Josh Anderson. It's somewhere in that range. He's in that group. So yeah, that speaks to how long he was on the team. He will be missed.
For sure. For sure. But like you said, it's bittersweet, and the sweetness is great because we're going to get to see more of a young kid.
More Kapanen, and also Demidov, right? Demidov like came in at the very last second last year, but he's basically a new player this year. So
yep, it's true.
Kapanen in, Demidov in, Bolduc in. That's 3 guys, 22 and under. Just very exciting.
It's really incredible how different this team will look.
The other moves, the other less than important, whatever.
Yeah.
Moves. Sammy Blais, mentioned him. I think he, like I mentioned, he's in the Barré Boulet spot of like, listen, man, you're probably making opening night roster. If there's injuries right away, you're going to play 40 games on the team. If everyone's healthy and the guys in Laval get rolling, you might only play 5.
Right.
And you might just be in Laval the whole time. Fine by me. Low leverage. Why not?
Yeah.
Right.
That's great.
But Alex Belzil, I don't have anything to say other than that I like that he's back.
Me too.
Liked him when he was on the team a couple years back.
He was the savior, man.
He was. Good times with Belzil. So would presume Belzil's playing most of his time in Laval, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. 2 more, at least in terms of like the lower end of the guys coming in, and we can do the ones going out. Kaapo Kähkönen.
Yep.
Bit surprising, actually. Canadians got him. Interestingly, the number he signed at is $1.15 million, which is, and thanks to, I think it's Habs Eyes on the Prize that pointed this out, that is the maximum cap hit you're allowed to have that can be buried in the AHL. So just like chef's kiss, well done, Ken Hughes. Like give him as much money as you can without messing with the salary cap. Would presume, maybe I'm wrong. Actually, let me ask this to you. Is it a battle at camp for backup goalie then between him and Dobesh?
I think so. Dobesh has the inside track, but if Kapanen shows much better than him and they think that a Fowler-Dobesh tandem would do them both good in terms of like, hey, you guys are the next ones up, prove your worth. That could be fun. I think what's most likely is Kähkönen and Fowler split it, and Fowler has a mentor who's been around the block several times, and then Dobesh goes back to his normal role behind Monty. But certainly, like if Kähkönen shows way better than Dobesh, then presumably Dobesh will be sent down. All of that being said, in a handful of preseason games and just at camp, it is tough to tell with goaltenders, like who's ready, who's not ready until you get into an actual NHL game against another team in the regular season. I think it's actually hard to sort of set that bar and see who's going to be better.
And for whatever it's worth, if I'm right in checking this, and maybe I'll just do a quick check while we're going here, I do believe Jakob Dobesh is still waiver exempt. Whether that play, I mean, in Kähkönen would obviously not be. So he has to clear waivers to get sent down to Laval. Although presuming end of September, no one needs an extra goalie unless you're Detroit and want to have a 5th goalie on your roster. Like, we'll see what happens. Shout out to John Gibson. So I like that. Great move. Like it. The other one that we didn't touch on a couple weeks ago, we both kind of in the haze that was draft preparations, we missed out on this. We do want to mention Vincent's Roar,
Yes.
famed of the historical 2022 draft class that includes many other greats like Calder Trophy winner Lane Hudson, back-to-back 50-point 20-year-old Uri Slavkovsky, up-and-coming Owen Beck, top defenseman pairing, partner of David Reinbacher and Adam Engstrom, Jared Davidson. It goes on and on. Sorry, Philip Machar, you're not quite making the cut yet. Vincent's Roar signed a 3-year ELC with the Montreal Canadiens a couple weeks back. He has been in Zurich for the last 2 seasons, and he has signed a deal that is very similar to Oliver Kapanen's from last year, where if he does not make the Canadiens, which, like, spoiler alert, he's not making the Canadiens, he gets sent back to Zurich. But the important part is the Canadiens have locked up his rights, which you have 4 years to do it. We just finished the 3rd year. So I think that, to me, for a guy who is, if we recall, like super duper young in his draft class, again, I think makes the cut by like 2 weeks, like one of the youngest guys in the draft. So he's basically, when you think about it, the 23 draft pick. Like I think he's younger than Florian Jacki, or about as young as Florian Jacki, and Jackie's played in the Val already.
Right.
So I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Brian, but like I'm psyched that they said, okay, we're gonna pick you. And I love the idea of like he can go back to Zurich for 1 year, but we don't have to worry about losing his rights because he's all locked up, and he'll come over and do the Kapanen thing, Oliver Kapanen thing.
Yeah, that's just it, man. It's a really simple decision to make. Send him back to a league where he's only getting better. He has improved, and when he's ready, he'll come over. I think it's perfect.
On the outs,
yes.
Anything you want to add about Raphael Harvey-Pinard, Caden Primo? Both, I believe, have signed Pittsburgh and Carolina, respectively. Any thoughts?
All the best, guys. All the best. Pizzetta, I hope you never hurt one of our Montreal Canadiens players playing for the Leafs. Did
he get a 2-year deal?
I think it was 2 years, 775 or something like that. Like really not a lot of money, but yeah.
Well done.
Good for you, man.
That's being a locker room guy.
That's a locker room guy and a guy who will hit anything that moves and works his absolute butt off. Can't do anything with the puck when it's on his stick.
Yeah.
But when the puck's not yeah.
That one shootout against Buffalo 2 years ago.
Totally
celebration.
True. Yes.
Like
riding the stick.
That is one of my 2 memories of Michael Pizzetta. I didn't think we'd be going down this alley this evening. That is one. The other one is, this is really random. This is the 22 season, so pure darkness, right? We all think of the 22 season. It's night all day long. It's just dark. I was going to a Tyler, the Creator concert, and they were not able to let us into Place Belle when the doors opened. So we were all waiting. A lot of people were waiting outside. And there was this group of guys huddling around their phone, watching a garbage Montreal Canadiens theme, and Michael Pizzetta scores, and they just start chanting, Pizzetta, Pizzetta. I'll never forget it. Legend. We'll miss you. But don't hurt any of our players.
Please.
Last but not least, Sean Farrell.
Yes.
We went back and forth a little bit on this over the course of the year. Is he back? Is he not back? Is he back? Is he not back? Signed a 2-way deal, interestingly enough, just 1 year at the league minimum. That he didn't really have any leverage. His only leverage is that he's no longer waiver exempt. But he got about the smallest possible contract that you can get. Again, it's a 2-way deal, meaning if he does clear waivers, his salary goes down tenfold from 770 to 77.
Yeah.
Thoughts? We just talked about like kind of like how we see the team. Like he has to make the team to not clear waivers unless you're not worried about him clearing waivers.
I don't want to say it's moot, but if he would clear waivers, great. And if he wouldn't, it's not a monstrous loss either, considering that this was the contract that the Montreal Canadiens brass saw fit for him. And I think I agree with them. 1 year, league minimum, no risk whatsoever. The only risk is if he doesn't clear waivers, and then it's as if you didn't sign him in the first place. So it's absolutely fine.
No risk.
Yeah.
No risk. No, like little to moderate reward. No risk. If he walks at this point, you've had 4 or 5 years to watch him. Like,
yeah, that's it. And
it's fine.
And I think the thing that people forget about waivers is if you claim someone off of waivers, they're on your NHL roster. You can't claim them and then you bury them in the minors. Like, I don't know if there's a misconception, but like if he wouldn't make the Montreal Canadiens team, maybe there's a handful of like really bad teams that he would make. But even then, I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's ready for someone to take him off waivers and be like, all right, here's an NHL spot.
Yeah. Quickly, because I do want to get to the draft, and I
Yeah.
don't want to go too long on this recording. Wish list for the rest of the off season. Again, whether we come back to record is schedule permitting, and whether or not it's big enough for us to record. I'm going to not even let you answer a Lane Hudson contract extension, because that's obviously number one.
Yeah,
on the
that's
list.
duh.
And what is there a number two? That, like, again, wish list, like you would really want it to happen. There's some things that would be cool to happen, but is there anything beyond that you're like, oh, this also, like, we obviously were like, when we come back in September, we need to make sure there's a Hudson extension. But other than that, is there anything that you're like, oh, we need something to happen here? This needed to have happened by now.
Not really, man. I'm looking at who else is extension eligible. Even Kirby Dach, we have to see a ton from him this year to even consider something like that. So that's a no. Zach Bolduc extension would be neat. Josh Roy, not really. Jack-Eye, meh. Like, in terms of extensions, it's Lane. That's basically it. In terms of a trade, like I said before, it'd be greedy to expect anything else or to hope for anything else. So I hereby put my Crosby thing aside for good. He has said on multiple occasions, and they have said they are sick of the media talking about it. He wants to stay in Pittsburgh. He's staying there. It's not happening. So I will officially retire until I forget that I've said this in about, a few months and say it again. Not a trade. A signing? No, there's nobody interesting on the market. No, man. Like, I don't care. Everybody work out real hard. Gally, go back to Vancouver, train with your dad. Like, just get a good offseason, everybody. That's all I give a crap about at this point.
Yeah, everybody come back to camp healthy and in shape and ready to go. So for me, like, people are going to say Matheson trade. What I think is the Canadiens are in a real strong position here. Like, if you're coming back and Matheson is on the team and now that you have at least 3 guys probably ahead of him on the depth chart, that's terrific. Matheson is a number 4 or number 5, freaking phenomenal.
Yes.
Or if someone's desperate because none of the other than Gavrikov, like, the defensemen were just not really moving much, or like you have to trade a first and a second and a player for Keandre Miller, like, whoever struck out, if you want Mike Matheson, step up. Otherwise, and meet the price. Otherwise, I think we are very happy to have Mike Matheson on the team in a more appropriate role going forward. And I think people are going to start viewing him differently. And I'd kind of actually like to see that. Yeah. I'd like to see the Matheson story change. Year 1 was incredible. Who the hell is this guy? This is great. Year two was like, he's doing too much. He needs to calm down, but he's getting a lot of points, whatever. Year 3 was stop getting in Lane's way.
Yeah.
Year 4, I think we need to bounce back. We need the Anderson bounce back on Mike Matheson. I know we kind of wished it on Kirby Dach as like what was our reverse jinx of most disappointing player? We gave it to Dach over Caden Primo, I think. But I'd like to see the Matheson thing turn around. That'll be something people bring up. Ultimately, Ken Hughes, it's an A/ close to A+ off season. Like, realistically, you couldn't have asked for much more than getting your number 1 defenseman, at least for now. Again, maybe Lane becomes a better number 1, but that's great if there's 2 number 1s. Getting Zach Bolduc out of thin air, essentially, phenomenal. And we're about to get into the draft stuff. Like, I think the draft is very well done as well. Very well executed, well usage of your surplus of picks to go up and get your guy. So, no, it's the Hudson extension, and then I don't really have anything else that really needs to happen. So, let's do the draft stuff. I think, look, there was no first rounders. Canadiens had a boatload of picks in day 2. They comboed a bunch of them. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 guys we really want to key in on. But obviously, it leads with the 34th pick. Alexander Zhuravsky played primarily in the MHL this past season. I think he played a bit at the KHL at the end. He has 2 more years, I should mention. So he's a 6'1" right winger, although I believe he's playing on his offside here and there, with just the dirtiest hands that you've seen. If you need to watch a YouTube clip of this guy, because he does this thing where it's like his hands start twitching almost. And it's kind of mesmerizing of like, you can see him being like, I have 7 options right now, and I need to wait till you, the defenseman, sir, make your choice. And I'm just going to do the other thing. He's really been cool to watch in some of these highlights. Sick hands. Absolutely sick hands. He has some flaws, sure. The Canadiens claim that they really liked him in the 16-17 zone. And maybe our perception of this would have been way different if they take him at 17. I don't think they would have. I think they would have traded down. But 6'1", winger, tons of puck handling skill. Apparently a buddy of Ivan Demidov, so that he's a buddy of ours now.
Yes.
What do you think, Brian, of Alexander Zhuravsky?
I think it's a phenomenal pick. That, just before I forget about it, that thing about him being a buddy of Ivan Demidov, I like that they're sort of prioritizing that as a drafting strategy. They did it with Slavkovsky. You get a young kid from another country who's like becoming the face of his country, and you get his pal to come in, develop with him, and be in the same organization. It's good for Slav. Like, maybe Slav was the primary reason they did that. I'm not saying Zhuravsky was drafted because they want to help Demidov out, but it's certainly a plus. Certainly a plus.
Mhm.
And they're going to be able to work together and just improve both of their sick, unbelievable hands. Does he have the best hands in the organization other than Demidov? And maybe other than Hudson, but Hudson, it's more his feet. Hudson, it's more his feet.
So is it Nick?
Is he Nick level already? That's absolutely incredible. He's got to work on the skating. That's the thing with Zhuravsky. He's got to work on the skating. The hockey IQ is really good offensively. And even on defense, he's pretty darn good. His offensive zone retrievals especially, really excellent. Like, he doesn't only do the offensive stuff that you think of a guy with amazing puck skills and handling do. He does the other stuff too, and very good in transition too. So this is certainly an exciting prospect. Another guy who turned it on at the second half of the year. What a crazy trend.
Yeah. So this guy add some protein shakes maybe into the diet. Gotta pack on some lbs. I think 6'1", 160, I believe, was the measurement. Gonna play in the KHL next season, so I think that'll help. I'm sure that'll motivate. He did an interview where he seemed pretty excited, ready to. He was hoping he would be a first round pick, but I think the Canadiens probably quelled him and couldn't have been a better. Interesting. I will say that, not to cut myself off, the trade, which was the 2 second-round picks the Canadiens had, which was, at this point, I'm forgetting.
41-49.
41-49, thank you.
Yeah.
They traded them with Carolina, who is the other team that seems to scout Russians really well.
Yes.
I just find that really interesting. That clearly Carolina was not, which I don't know what that means, but
yes, Carolina. Yeah. Let me quell your fears here. Yes, Carolina loves Russian prospects and loves drafting them, but there's one thing they love more, and that's trading down. Regardless of who they're getting, they don't care. They love trading down. Get more darts to throw at the board.
I love the pick. I think it's great. We'll get into the question later about, is he a top 10 prospect, but I feel very good about this pick. I think this is the right type of player to bet on.
Yeah.
And he got a couple years runway. The Canadiens have a good thing with the Russian players right now. Like, keep it going. This seems like a really solid pick, and a guy that I could absolutely have seen the Canadiens trading back to 24 if they had kept 16 and 17 to take him.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah. And they didn't have to. They traded up from the second instead.
Yeah. The other guy I definitely wanted to touch on, obviously, was the next pick they had at the beginning of the third round. Another trade up scenario. Hayden Papanekis of the Kelowna Rockets. Interesting player. Again, this is we are at the point of once we get past, I think, the top 35 to 40, quite frankly, and I recognize his elite prospects ranking was quite higher. It starts to feel out of my depth. So I'll be honest, this is a lot of elite prospects doing the work. But from what I can tell, a tough center, not overly skilled. He'll put up some numbers, had 20 plus goals last year, but he's 6'4", and he seems, Brian, like already, like from what I've seen from not only from elite prospects, but other scouts since the draft, this is a guy who is almost definitely an NHLer, certainly a fourth line center, and is going to have an opportunity in the next season to have a bigger offensive role. And that is, and I'm sure the Canadiens are factoring that in, along with the size and all other components, for the upward swing and the trajectory to go from a borderline NHLer to a middle six center, maybe?
Yep, that's absolutely true. He's going to get a top 6 role, and the more chances he'll get offensively could culminate in him becoming better offensively, improving his shot, improving his playmaking, his hockey IQ, and that would be fantastic. But if it doesn't work, you're absolutely right. Fourth line center who will bruise you up, who defends very, very well, and who probably can be a very good penalty killer with his good sort of defensive reads and his long reach, obviously, and his physicality. So that's great. And these two picks are kind of opposites in terms of philosophy. Zhuravsky, boomer bust, straight boomer bust. Like that's the way that they put it in Elite Prospects. They said exactly that, boomer bust type of NHL draft pick, because if he hits, he'll be a dynamic offensive player. If he doesn't, he probably won't pan out because there's little to be gained sort of in terms of a bottom six role there. Whereas opposite for Papanekas, just I think it's great. And it's kind of what I wanted from 16-17, right? Like both players are lesser than what we would have gotten from 16-17, but I think I remember saying that like one guy go boom or bust, huge risk, and the other guy, maybe they go safe. Maybe they go with somebody who's will pan out.
They said, Brian, great idea. Let's just trade for Noah Dobson instead.
That's right. And thank God they didn't listen to me.
Yeah, I will say I like that you drew that parallel of like they kind of still did the thing where they
just did it lower down,
kind of split those first, just a wee bit further down the draft.
Yep.
And I think both these guys, like I like both of these picks quite a bit. Was there anyone else? We don't have to get into the rest of the guys. We've already gone at length today on a bunch of other moves. Anyone else from the plethora of picks that the Habs had that you wanted to touch on in some capacity?
I mean, it's very rare to see a player in this draft, especially a D+1 player in this draft who had 3 or more expected goals per 60. But we got a defenseman, a right-handed defenseman that did just that, Bryce Pickford, with the 81st pick. So he's kind of all around a decent defenseman, but incredibly good shot. So all these other little parts of his game have to be developed, obviously, but the shot is absolutely there. So that's exciting, if nothing else. And at a position where I said earlier, like we had a strength, we traded Mailloux. You're right, there were 3 guys. Just jumping back to that. So like adding one more is great. And they didn't just add one more. I think they got 3 right-handed defensemen in this draft, Jordan. So that's great. Just bumping up the numbers there. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. They got Handel and they got McNeil, 177, 189. And then a left-handed guy in Max and Vig at 209. So bulking up in terms of defense. They also got 2 goalies.
Bit surprising, I will say. I know like some people said it's about time to start restocking the cabinets from a goalie perspective. You got the 3 that we all know. Now you also sign Kokkonen as well. It seems like Volokin is going to happen. Like I believe he's going to be at the rookie camp in July, or maybe is that rookie camp right now. Interesting to add another 2 guys. It doesn't look like some of the picks from the last few years, like Quentin Miller, are panning out. So why not?
Yep.
We put our hands up here and say, trust your judgment. I like the 3 righties, 2 goalies. Sorry, 3 right-handed defensemen, 2 goalies. I kind of like that. And then the one other forward they pick is LJ Mooney, who is a descendant of Cole Caulfield.
That's right.
Nowhere near as talented, but there's stuff there. There's a lot of stuff there. And just, it's a great take a flyer on this guy, 113th, 4th round pick, to just kind of monitor. And I will say, broadly speaking, like, and maybe it's not fair because probably the value of these picks is better than last year's, taking out the first rounders, like remove Demidov and Hage. I immediately prefer this crop of draftees versus last season's. Again, removing Ivan Demidov and removing Michael Hage.
Yeah.
Which then I recognize that there's no 34th pick. It took a while before the Canadiens got through their 3rd pick.
Right.
In the draft last year. I think is it Tyler Thorpe in the 3rd round? Something like that. It's a bit further down. I immediately prefer like this draft class better. Prove me wrong, 2024.
Yeah,
but I haven't seen anything again beyond. Look, again, if you nailed Demidov and Hage, who freaking cares what happens with the rest of 24? Because you have 2 of your top 6 going forward, so who cares? But broadly speaking, I like the pickings from this group a bit better, at least at first glance.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, skill wise, LJ Mooney, if he was bigger, forget about it.
Yeah, that's 2 more rounds at least. He's at least a 2nd round pick.
Easy. Yeah, probably. I mean, he's 5'7". He's Cole Caulfield height. So like, I see him almost like skill wise, he has very good handling. He's very quick. He's very similar to Cole Caulfield in that regard. He doesn't have the shot, decent shot, but nothing like Cole's. But he's very Gallagher-y in the way that he'll crash the net and he'll bang guys up, and he's really not afraid to get into tough situations with much bigger dudes, sometimes close to a foot taller than him, and he's willing to hit guys.
Do any of these guys, Brian, crack the top 10 in our Habsland prospect rankings? For the listener, the top 10 was in, I guess, descending order, starting at 1. Demidov 1, Reinbacher 2, Fowler 3, Hage 4, Owen Beck 5, Engstrom 6, Kapanen 7. Mailloux was 8, so that's removed regardless. Dobesh was 9, and then Florian Jacki was 10. So there's a spot open regardless.
Okay.
In the top 10. It could be from, you can give it to Machar, Farrell had a comeback, Atos Koivu had a very quiet season, but he's still barely 19 years old at this point.
Yep.
Tyler Thorpe had a nice season. Owen Protz progressed a little bit. Or is it Does Jarovsky get in? Does Papanekis get in?
Papanekis is Florian Jacki level. They're very similar, right? Like centers who probably will pan out in like a fourth line role. But Jarovsky's more exciting than both of them, so I want to put him in.
I think it's Jarovsky between Dobish and Jacki. Bump Dobish to 8. Obviously, my U's gone.
Yep.
Throw in Jarovsky at 9. Keep Jacki at 10. Look, we're gonna graduate a bunch of these guys this year because there ain't gonna be no more rookies. Demidov is not like he's gonna win the Calder, so like and then Oliver Kapanen will likely lose his rookie status as well. So likely 2 spots will open up by the next time we do this in, late March of next year. I just like to have like a, this is version, I think 3.0 of our prospect rankings, or this is now 3.1, I should say, post draft. So I think Jarovsky sliding in at 9 behind Dobish ahead of Florian Jacki. And then Papanekis is just like, he's just right outside, and a good couple months there in Kelowna, and he might honestly rocket his way towards the top. There's there's tons of upside with both of those two guys, and we'll watch for LJ Mooney. We'll watch for Bryce Pickford, see if there's other things. Really, really exciting stuff. I like the draft. They did well. It just falls in line with the rest of the 2025 offseason. Like, no panic moves, no rushing to get things going. You play the cards that you're dealt, and you scan the market, and you find the right thing that fits for you, and the Canadiens absolutely did that. If we can do it quickly, and I know we're kind of already approaching our max time that we prefer to do, but as most people have probably figured out, we never record how long we want to record. Free agency across the board, Brian. I wanted to touch on I wrote down 3 teams. We don't have to talk about Vegas if we don't want to. And we can keep the Florida discussion really small. I would like to talk about the Rangers, if that's okay.
Sure.
For the Panthers. So they get all 3 guys back, somehow, some way. Last I checked, they will need to sign at least one more. I think it's a defenseman they probably need to sign. They're only going to likely carry 22 players, and that will still result in them needing to trade either Luostarinen or Evan Rodriguez. Of course, Anton Lundell could theoretically also be traded. And that would provide them with more cap relief, because I believe a Luostarinen trade or a Rodriguez trade would get them into like the Maple Leaf zone of like $12 under the cap. The Leafs teams have passed that they weren't able to ice as many players as they could because they're really just trying to cut back on the cap. At this point, the Panthers already will not be able to carry 23 guys on their roster ever.
Right.
Now, there could be some LTIR shenanigans, and I don't doubt they will do it one more time. They just won't do it to start the season, I don't think. But I just want to put that out there. Like, they have to move Luostarinen or Rodriguez. I think Luostarinen would be a little bit more interesting. And then Lundell's the guy that I'm 100% sure half the league is calling about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if the Panthers are smart, they're like, the Panthers can do it. They can make the trade and come out looking like bandits and get 3 first-round picks for them. But that's just, they did it. I don't know how they did it. The Marchand contract is a scary precedent for cap circumvention. Yep. Ekblad, you left $20 million on the table. You did it. Well, I can't be mad at you. Sam Bennett, 8 years by 8. Someone needed to have offered him 10 or 10 and a half a year for him to even think about anyone else. So
right.
That's it. Any thoughts on the Panthers signings of those 3 guys and what they got to do now?
They did exactly what they had to do as a team who has been to the Cup final 3 years in a row and won it the last 2. They have to keep trying until it's blatantly obvious they can't do it anymore. They have to just throw draft picks, throw prospects, throw whatever they can at the wall to get things back. Sign guys and hope that they'll sign for less. All 3 of those dudes signing for less than they are worth. In the Marchand case, you're absolutely right. This is circumvention because he's going to be how old when this thing ends? 43 years old? He's not going to be playing that amount of money's worth of hockey at that age, let alone at 40 or 41. So this is for the next year and maybe the next 2 years of Marchand. And then this is going to look really, really bad, but they don't care. And in their position, I would do the exact same thing. Try and get everybody back. Do whatever you can. Screw the future. 4 years from now, who cares? Let's just try and win it all. So yeah, still hate them. They're gonna do the very last year of the other type of circumvention that we hate, the LTIR, before that gets resolved for the following season. They're gonna do it. Yeah,
them in Vegas are gonna do it 100%. A couple teams I'm sure are gonna do it for this one last ride. Also, shout out to Red Eyes Black Dragon. Jeff Petrie. For signing for the with the Panthers as well. Shout out to all of my Yu-Gi-Oh heads out there.
Yeah, Kaiba.
So On the Rangers quickly, I think they did really well. I hate to say this. I know some people are crapping on some of their picks and some of their decision making. Gavrikov 7x7. It's a lot of years for an older guy, but it's still a good amount of. I think it's a good AAV. The decision we talked about, right? Like Keandre Miller, Will Cooley. Someone's got to go here, and this is someone here is going to get targeted for an offer sheet. And it looks like Carolina was saying, yeah, it's going to be us, and it's going to be Keandre Miller. And they got a conditional first round pick, which I think is regardless going to be a first round pick. The condition is just like whose pick they get. They're getting a first round pick, a second round pick, and Scott Morrow for, I don't know, like he was not going to be able to stay. And then 8 years at 7.5 for Keandre Miller is a bit rich, but
yeah,
I think the Rangers did well. And then the real like sneaky of all sneaky signings, Will Cooley, 2 years, $3.9 million a year.
That's
Are you
excellent.
freaking kidding me?
Yeah, that's really excellent.
That is one of the best value contracts. He's still RFA at the end of this.
Yeah.
One of the best value contracts. And maybe it's Cooley saying, I want to get back out there when the cap's at 115 and get me
of course, yeah.
Well, it'll be 7 years, but like a 7-year, $60 million contract at that point. And the Rangers said, cool, if you're going to do 2 years, it's going to be at the number we want. But doesn't mean it's not a great deal for these next 2 years.
Yeah, he's betting on himself, and I think it's a great bet.
So that's what I want to talk about. I have some good contracts and bad contracts I want to just like quickly mention. Anything else you wanted to touch on?
Not really, man. I want to get into the good and the bad. I want to hear some. You know what? Let's start good. I want to end on the bad, the funny ones, because there's one in particular that just made me scratch my head.
So Logan Stankoven, Stanky, 8 years, $6 million a year. I think it's terrific. That's like good.
Yes,
freaking job, Carolina.
Phenomenal.
Damn. Well, just you got a top 6 guy. I know he's undersized, but you got a top 6 guy who's shown a lot of like perseverance and heart, especially being traded away from a cup contender to another cup contender, to be fair, but still being traded early on in your career after being told you're the guy. Bit tough. And he's the centerpiece of the Rantanen trade, the second one, like part 2. Really good value for Logan Stankoven. Deserved. Congrats. But really good deal. Jake Allen.
Yeah.
5 years, 1.8 mil a year. This is also kind of cap circumvention, but we're going to allow it because we like Jakey.
That's right.
Earn the money. $9 million over 5 years to be tandem and then kind of really a backup. Love it. You're going to hate this last one I have. Matthew Nyes. I haven't brought this up yet, and an hour into recording on our 46th episode of the year, what we call this, folks, is a hook. This is how we get you for next season. Are you ready for this one, Brian? I haven't told you about this. I've been working on this for a while.
Okay.
We're going to have the Slavkovsky versus Nyes debate next year.
Oh, I don't want to.
Because if you look at the contract and how much he signed for, I can tell you right away what contract they were pointing to.
Wow.
They were pointing a Slav's contract. And he said,
to be clear, I didn't say I don't want to because I'm scared of the result and I think their guy's better than our guy. I know our guy's better, and I just don't want to gloat about it. That's all.
Okay. I think it's a very interesting discussion.
Yes, it is. It is.
But
it's more interesting than I want it to be.
Yeah. It's a good contract. It's got to say what it is. It's a good contract.
For sure.
Tree living.
That one coupled with the Tavares contract, excellent work. Absolutely excellent. And then throw Pizzetta in there. Oh, just A+ offseason. You too.
Yeah. Move over Jim Nill. We have a new GM of the year.
That's right.
So that was in my good pile.
I got one more for good. It might just be average, but I like the Suter pickup for the Blues.
Yeah.
You know what? Like they needed a guy. They just lost one to us. He's going to go in there for 4.125, 2 years. So it's not a huge risk. It's not a long-term thing. If they make the playoffs again, great. If they don't, like sort of low leverage. It's I think it's pretty solid. 25 goals last year for a Canucks team that couldn't figure it out offensively at times. So I think that's a great one.
Besser's another one that I kind of liked. I didn't have it written down.
I like that. Besser. I like that all the Vancouver guys were there. Like, we're trading this guy. Oh no, wait, he's signing. They happened to like 3 guys. Yeah. Besser, Demko. It's great.
The Demko contract's decent. All right. So the bad ones, I got 2.
Okay.
It's the Provorov contract.
Yes.
I mean, you know why it's so bad? Because I was writing all of these down before we started recording, and I just, again, by memory, I'm like, I think it's 8 years at 7.5. I'm like, ugh, that's the tough one. And then I just double check. It's 8.5. Like in my head, I was discounting $1 million and I was still like, boy, this is a rough contract. I forgot there was another $1 million.
So to the Blue Jackets, he's worth $1 million a year less than Dobson. Isn't that astounding?
It's the cost of a small market, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. It did come out. It looks like Elliot Friedman kind of did report. We kind of alluded to this last time. The Jackets likely did offer Dobson more money. So they just took that and were like, here, Ivan, you
take it.
You want to finish this? It's like,
yeah,
Dobson didn't finish his meal. Give it to Ivan.
Right.
Congrats to him on the bag.
I mean,
well
based
done,
on that logic, they would have offered Dobson what's 50% more than 9.5. They have offered him like 14 million, because this is easily 50% more than Provorov should be getting.
Yeah, I would have assumed it's probably not that much more. I would have presumed like 9.75, maybe 10. They offered him, but
for sure.
The other one I had written down here, it's not so much about, again, like congrats to all these players on these contracts. Jonathan Drouin, 2 years, $4 million a year for the Islanders. I don't see a compatibility there with your head coach, sir.
Oh yeah, great point.
I know it was Darsh, and Darsh, it's like all the Quebec guys, and they're like, Darsh probably talked him into it and sold him on an idea. Yeah, Patrick Roy is still behind the bench though.
Yeah.
I don't see it. With some of the reports about Dobson not getting along with Roy, I wish Drouin would have gotten that contract with almost any other team. Not the Habs, but like almost any other team.
Right.
I think it's fine. I think he's worked his butt off these last 2 years. Got that McKinnon, sparkle dust on him a bit.
Yeah.
Earned that contract, but I don't like it's not the contract itself, it's the team he signed with. I don't think it's a good fit for him.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you think Roy is in the long-term plans of Mathieu Darche?
It's always tough when the GM doesn't. When a GM inherits a coach, there's always a little like, this isn't my guy,
right?
And it depends on how long. Well, Darsh is doing this thing where he's like, we're not rebuilding, but we're keeping most of our best players. Well, but you're also drafting 3 guys in the top 17.
Yeah, and you also got rid of a number 1 defenseman.
And you got rid, yeah. So it's like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth right now. Like if you're going to keep Barzal and Horvat, maybe it's a 1-year thing. Maybe 8 months from now when it's the trade deadline and they're moving off Barzal and Roy's on his way out, and then we're like, oh, okay, well, you have to kind of long play it. But for now, it doesn't make sense.
Right. Give them an opportunity next year. If they can't cut ties. Yeah, that makes sense.
The only other one that I didn't like, and again, it's player, not necessarily contract, Lars Eller with the Senators. My boy, what are we doing? Why do this to us? Huh? Lars Eller?
It sucks because he's pretty good, and it's going to make them better. That's the
annoying
exactly.
Part.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. They got Giroux to come back. They didn't need to go take our boy.
That's right.
That's it. That's what I had for the offseason, Brian.
That's it, man. We've talked long enough. This has been a fantastic offseason for the Montreal Canadiens, for a bunch of teams, but for the Montreal Canadiens, it's been just absolutely exquisite. You can't ask for better. So, like you said off the top, I want to say this as well. Thank you guys all for checking us out, for listening. We appreciate it so much. We love doing this. It's just a fun hobby to talk about the team that we love, especially when we start in right after the worst season in recent memory. And every year they just get better and better and better. And next year, man, I don't want to start another 20-minute discussion right now, so I'll keep this on the back burner. But I can't wait to have discussions about, like, what do we see as the ceiling for this team next year? So We'll leave that for next time we talk. But
that's the Brian hook. My hook was Nyes versus Slavkovsky. Yours is much more. We needed 2, right? There needs to be a dark part that people look forward to.
That's right.
And then the happy part.
Devil on the shoulder and the angel on the other.
That's exactly right. So yes, as Brian said, thank you all for listening. 46 episodes we came to when training camp was just starting, when we were all so young and naive and thought Kirby Dach was the future at the second line center. And it's 9 months later and we're starting to talk ourselves into it all over again. So we'll be off for a couple months. Again, we'll throw up the bat signal. If something big happens, we'll do our absolute best to come in, give you our thoughts about it. But if that doesn't happen, have a wonderful summer, everybody. You can follow us on Habsland Pod, at Habsland Pod on Blue Sky. We're still going to be active there. Still going to be checking in, but taking a step back. And if you like what you heard, tell people about the podcast all summer. Get them ready for late September. Give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. Give us a follow on Spotify. Apple Podcasts as well, 5 stars. We appreciate all of that. Thank you all so much. And until next fall, till training camp, go Habs.